The spaceship shuddered violently as it pierced the thin atmosphere of the alien planet. Smoke curled from the engines, and warning lights flashed wildly across the control panel. Eli gripped the seat tightly, his knuckles white. Every instinct screamed that he needed to act fast. "Mom." "I'll be back," he whispered to himself, trying to steady his breathing. The words felt strange to say alone in the cockpit, but they were a promise he intended to keep. He had left Earth in search of resources to help his colony survive, and now, stranded on an unknown planet, he knew survival itself was going to be a challenge. With a final jolt, the ship crashed into a forested plain. Trees bent and snapped under the impact, but the cockpit remained mostly intact. Eli stumbled out, coughing from the smoke and dust. His spacesuit was scratched, but it held. He looked around. The forest was dense, alive with sounds of strange creatures. Leaves shimmered, with colors he had never seen, and strange, luminous flowers dotted the landscape. He took a deep breath. "Okay, think," he muttered. He checked the ship. Most systems were damaged and the radio was dead. There was no way to call for help. He was truly alone. Eli knew he had to move. He grabbed his emergency pack and started walking toward a ridge he could see in the distance. The sun, or whatever passed for a sun here, cast an orange glow over the hills. Strange shadows moved among the trees. He kept his senses sharp, every rustle making him jump. Hours passed. His legs ached, but eventually he reached the top of the ridge. There below him sprawled an alien city. Towers rose like crystal spires, reflecting the light in dazzling patterns. The city seemed alive, with moving vehicles that floated in, the air and beings unlike anything Eli had ever imagined walking the streets. Some had wings, some had multiple limbs, and all of them looked at once majestic and alien. Eli's heart pounded. He knew he shouldn't be seen. Humans were rare visitors here, and he had no idea how these beings would react. Still, curiosity pulled him forward. He climbed down the ridge carefully, avoiding open spaces, until he reached the edge of the city. It was then that he saw her. A figure stood on a balcony of one of the tallest towers, looking down at the streets. She moved with a grace Eli had never seen. Her skin shimmered like silver, her eyes glowing faintly. Around her neck was a chain of light, delicate but powerful. She was a queen, he was certain of it, and though she looked beautiful and regal, her eyes held sorrow, a sadness that seemed to reach out to him. Before he could think, a creature lunged from the shadows. It had 4 legs, a long tail, and teeth that gleamed even in the dim light, its eyes fixed on Eli with hunger. He stumbled back, fumbling for a weapon in his pack. All he found was a small plasma flare. With a shaky hand, he ignited it and swung it toward the creature. The flare hit its face, and it recoiled with a hiss. Eli ran, heart hammering, into the trees. The creature pursued him, but it seemed hesitant, unused to human unpredictability. Eli ducked, rolled, and finally reached a small clearing. Panting, he realized he had lost it. From above, a sound startled him, a soft whistle, almost melodic. He looked up and saw a smaller flying creature, sleek and bright, hovering near the Queen's Tower. It seemed curious, not hostile. Eli felt a spark of hope. Perhaps these beings were not all dangerous. He set up a temporary camp near a creek. Water glimmered with strange colors, but it was safe to drink. As he ate a small ration of his supplies, he kept thinking about the Queen. Why did her sorrow feel so familiar? He did not understand her language, yet something in her posture, her quiet observation of the city, felt human. Night fell quickly. The 2 moons above bathed the forest in silver light. Eli sat by the fire he had built, trying to plan his next move. He knew he had to learn their language if he wanted to survive. He had to understand their society, their rules, and most importantly, he had to find a way to meet the Queen safely. Sleep came fitfully. He dreamed of the Queen, of her daughter, of a city in danger. When he woke, he found the smaller creature from before watching him. It chirped softly. He held out a hand. It approached cautiously, sniffing before settling on his arm. Eli smiled. Perhaps it was a sign. Perhaps he was not alone. The next morning, he moved closer to the city. He watched from the trees, learning. He observed their guards, their patrols, and the way the queen moved among her people. She was careful, protective, yet carried herself with dignity. He noticed a group of young beings playing in the streets, laughing while soldiers trained nearby. Life went on, despite the sadness in the queen's eyes. Suddenly, an alarm rang out across the city. Eli saw a shadowy figure dart through the streets, a predator, larger and more dangerous than anything he had faced. Citizens screamed and scattered. Without thinking, Eli ran toward the danger. Using his small flair, his quick movements, and sheer courage, he distracted the predator long enough for the citizens to escape. The queen appeared on the balcony above, her eyes wide. She pointed as if to say, "Who is this human?" Eli froze under her gaze, then bowed slightly, hoping his action would show respect rather than threat. For the first time, she smiled, not fully, but just enough to let him know she recognized his courage. He had survived the forest, faced a creature stronger than him, and still acted with bravery. Somehow he had made her notice. That night, Eli returned to his camp. He knew tomorrow would be the real test. He needed to approach the city, to speak to the queen, to prove that humans were not just fragile outsiders but capable allies. He felt a strange determination, a fire in his chest. He would protect her and her people if he could. He would survive. And perhaps in the process he would finally keep the promise he had whispered alone in the cockpit. "Mom, I'll be back." As he stared at the two moons above, Eli understood one truth. Humanity had survived countless challenges on Earth. If humans could survive there, they could survive here. He was ready to face whatever this alien world would throw at him. Tomorrow he would make contact. Tomorrow, the story of a human warrior and an alien queen would begin. The morning sun, or the orange glow of the planet's star, cast long shadows across the alien city. Eli packed his small bag carefully, checking his limited supplies. He had only one small flare, a water ration, and a communicator that didn't work. But he carried something far more important: courage. He moved quietly through the forest edge, staying in the shadows. The city below was alive with movement. Aliens of every shape and size walked the streets. Some had wings that glimmered in the light. Some had scales like crystal, and others had limbs that bent in ways humans could not imagine. Their voices were musical, strange but full of meaning. Eli studied them carefully. He had observed their patterns for 2 days. Guards patrolled in pairs, scanning the streets. Children played near fountains, laughing and running. Traders shouted their offers from glowing stalls. The Queen's Tower stood taller than all others, a shining beacon of silver light. He took a deep breath. Today, he would move closer. Today, he would make contact. As he stepped into a quieter street near the market, a young alien boy ran past him and tripped over his foot. The boy's limbs were slender and flexible, and he fell hard. Eli rushed forward instinctively. "I'm sorry. Are you okay?" he said in English, hoping somehow the boy would understand. The boy blinked at him, confused. Then with a small chirp, he laughed. He pointed at Eli, then at a small device on his wrist. A holographic screen appeared with strange symbols. The boy pressed a button, and suddenly Eli's words were translated into the alien language. "You are kind," the device said in a melodic voice. Eli smiled. "Thanks. I'm just trying to help." The boy ran off, waving. Eli realized that communication was possible, slowly, with patience and technology. He felt a spark of hope. If he could communicate, he could prove he was not a threat. He moved closer to the Queen's Tower. The streets narrowed, the buildings taller. Guards walked with a strict posture, their glowing eyes scanning. Eli paused behind a corner. He needed a plan. A direct approach might be dangerous. Then, from above, a soft fluttering caught his attention. The small flying creature from before, the one that had watched him from the trees, appeared. It hovered near the Queen's balcony, chirping and spinning in the air. Eli realized it was trying to guide him. Perhaps the creature trusted him. Perhaps it wanted him to meet the queen. Taking a deep breath, Eli stepped into the open. He raised his hand slightly to show he meant no harm. Guards immediately stopped and turned toward him, their weapons glowing faintly. Eli froze, hoping his actions would speak louder than his words. Before the guards could react, the queen appeared on the balcony. Her silver skin shimmered in the morning light, her glowing eyes fixed on Eli. She raised a hand, and the guards hesitated. Eli bowed slightly, the universal gesture of respect. The queen spoke. Her voice was musical, filled with authority and calm. Words he could not understand at first. Then the small flying creature chirped, and the holographic translator on Eli's wrist activated. "You... human?" the device translated. "Yes," Eli said, his voice steady. "I come in peace. I am alone. I mean no harm." The queen tilted her head, studying him. Eli felt her eyes pierce through him, as if she could see his thoughts, his intentions. Then she motioned for the guards to lower their weapons. Slowly, cautiously, they obeyed. Eli exhaled. He had made contact. Over the next hour, Eli demonstrated his skills. He helped a guard repair a broken drone that had crashed in the street. Using a simple human tool, he tightened screws and rerouted energy flow. The drone whirred back to life, flying smoothly into the air. The guard's eyes widened in astonishment. Eli nodded respectfully. "You. Clever," the translator said. Eli smiled. That was the first word of approval he had received from an alien. The queen watched silently, her expression unreadable. Eli noticed a hint of curiosity in her eyes. Perhaps she had heard stories of humans before, but seeing one in action, brave, clever, and kind, was something else entirely. As the sun moved higher, Eli followed the queen's movements from a safe distance. She walked through the city, observing her citizens. Some bowed as she passed, others waved. Her daughter, a small girl with silver hair and glowing eyes like her mother, played near a fountain. Eli's heart ached when he saw the queen glance at her daughter with worry. Something was wrong. The girl's laughter was cautious, measured as if she sensed danger she could not name. Eli realized then that the queen's sorrow was not for him, not for humans, but for her daughter. He made a silent promise to himself. He would protect her, just as he would protect anyone who could not defend themselves. That night, Eli set up camp again near the forest edge. He reviewed what he had learned. The Queen City was advanced, peaceful, but vulnerable. Humans were small and weak compared to these aliens, but they had advantages: quick thinking, unpredictability, courage. Eli felt a rush of pride. He was human, and he had survived on this planet where many might fail. Sleep came, but it was restless. Eli dreamed of the city under attack, of shadows creeping through the streets. He saw the queen's daughter trapped, crying for help. He woke with a start, clutching his small flare. The next morning, he decided to take a bolder step. He approached the city gates, hands raised. The guards were tense, weapons ready. Eli held out a small holographic device he had scavenged from his ship. It projected an image of him helping the drone yesterday. The guards stared, then murmured to each other. One stepped forward cautiously, lowering his weapon. The translator activated. "You helped yesterday." "Good," it said. Eli nodded. "I want to help more. I can protect your city. I can help your people." The queen appeared on the balcony again, her glowing eyes fixed on him. Slowly, she descended the stairs, moving closer. Eli could see the faint sadness in her expression. He remembered his own mother, waiting for him back on Earth. He understood loss, fear, and hope. "Why do you help?" the translator asked, echoing her words. Eli thought for a moment. "Because it is the right thing to do. Because I can. Because I want to help." She studied him silently. Then, finally, she nodded. It was not a complete acceptance, but it was acknowledgement. She turned and motioned for him to follow. Eli's heart leapt. For the first time, he entered the alien city officially. Citizens watched in amazement. A human walking among them, unafraid, polite, respectful. Whispers spread quickly. The human is brave, clever, and kind. Eli stayed close to the queen, observing her daughter. The small girl seemed curious about him, though wary. Eli smiled gently, sitting a few feet away from her as she played with glowing spheres. Slowly she inched closer, testing his intentions. Eli held out a hand and she touched it lightly. He smiled. Trust had begun to grow. That evening the queen invited Eli to dine in her tower. The food was strange but nourishing. Eli ate slowly, careful, showing respect. The queen watched him, her glowing eyes calm but alert. "You, human, different," the translator said. Eli smiled. "We are small, but we try. We can be brave. We can be helpful." The queen seemed to consider this. Then, unexpectedly, she spoke another phrase, longer this time. The translator hummed, then translated, "Perhaps, and you can stay, learn, help." Eli's heart raced. This was more than he had hoped for. Not only had he survived, but he had earned the chance to prove humans could be more than visitors. They could be protectors. That night, as he lay on a soft mat in the queen's tower, Eli thought of Earth, of his mother, of the promise he had whispered alone in the cockpit. "Mom, I'll be back." Now, more than ever, he meant it. He would survive. He would protect. And he would return home stronger than ever. But for now he had a mission here. To protect the queen, to earn the trust of a world unlike any he had ever known, and to prove that humanity could rise to any challenge, no matter how alien. The night was calm, but Eli knew danger was never far. Somewhere in the shadows threats lurked, but he was ready. Humans had survived far worse, and he would be their shield. The morning light spilled across the alien city, sparkling on towers that stretched like crystal spires into the sky. Eli had spent several days learning the city's rhythms, observing the queen and her people, and proving that a human could contribute to a world so different from his own. Yet despite the calm, a tension lingered in the air, a shadow that even the queen seemed to sense. Eli was walking through the training grounds, helping a few guards refine their combat techniques. Using his human experience, he suggested small adjustments in stance, timing, and coordination. The guards had laughed at first, skeptical of a human teaching them, but as they practiced, Eli's methods proved effective. Slowly, respect grew, and even the queen's daughter, watching from the balcony, seemed intrigued by this strange little human who dared to walk among them. Suddenly, a loud horn echoed across the city. Eli froze. The guards tensed and the queen's eyes narrowed. Something was wrong. From the tallest tower, a scout reported, "Unknown fleet approaching from the east. Armed, fast, dangerous." Eli's heart pounded. "How many?" he asked. "Two. Many to count. They are not friendly." The queen's voice, translated through Eli's device, was calm but firm. "Prepare defenses. Citizens, move to safety. Soldiers, ready yourselves." Eli glanced toward the horizon. Black ships glinted in the sunlight, cutting through the sky like shadows of birds. He could see the glint of weaponry, the sharp angles of their design. Something about them felt wrong, chaotic, unplanned, violent. "Those ships, they will attack?" Eli asked. "Yes," said a guard, eyes wide. "They want our queen, her daughter. They want the city." Eli clenched his fists. He had faced danger in the forest, predators and creatures of every kind. But this was different. This was organized, intelligent, and lethal. Yet, he refused to let fear take hold. Humans had survived worse. Humans had conquered impossible odds. He ran toward the queen's tower. "I can help," he said almost instinctively. "I can fight with you." The queen studied him, her glowing eyes piercing. Then slowly she nodded. "You, human, clever, use what you know, help us survive." Eli understood. He didn't need alien strength. He had human ingenuity, unpredictability, and courage. That was enough. The city's defenses were unlike anything on Earth. Energy shields shimmered over key structures. Floating drones monitored the streets. Soldiers stood ready, weapons humming. Eli moved quickly, studying every detail. He noticed weaknesses that aliens overlooked, blind spots in the shields, gaps in patrols, predictable weapon patterns. As the first enemy ships arrived, chaos erupted. Citizens ran, guided by guards, as warnings blared through the city. Eli took a deep breath and ran toward the outer wall. One of the ships fired, sending a pulse of energy crashing into a nearby building. Trees snapped, and the ground trembled. Eli rolled behind a structure, shielding himself from debris. He activated a small device from his pack, a makeshift flare launcher. Not very powerful, but enough to distract the enemy. He aimed at the lead ship, igniting a flare. The light caused the pilot to veer slightly, giving a momentary advantage to the city's defenses. "Good thinking," a guard shouted, impressed. Eli ducked behind cover, ready for the next move. The attack was relentless. Ships swooped low, firing energy pulses while smaller drones attempted to infiltrate the streets. Citizens screamed and scattered. Eli ran, from cover to cover, using simple tactics. Lure the drones into narrow streets, force them to collide, use their momentum against them. It was not elegant, but it worked. The Queen watched from her tower, giving commands with calm precision. Her daughter clung to her side, eyes wide with fear but trusting Eli's presence nearby. Eli realized then that humans were not just survivors. They could inspire confidence in others even in an alien city. Hours passed. The battle continued. Eli moved tirelessly, guiding guards, setting traps, and using his small devices to disrupt enemy systems. His small size and unpredictability allowed him to slip past enemy drones, planting interference devices that caused confusion among the attackers. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Then the enemy made their move. A massive warship descended from the sky, aiming directly at the Queen's tower. Energy beams lashed out, striking buildings and sending debris flying. Eli's heart raced. He knew that if the tower fell, the Queen and her daughter could be lost forever. He sprinted toward the city's energy control hub, where alien engineers struggled to maintain the shields. "I can help," Eli shouted. Using simple human logic, he suggested rerouting energy flows, combining shield frequencies in a pattern the aliens had not considered. They followed his instructions, skeptical at first, but soon the shield pulsed brighter and stronger, deflecting the warship's beams. The Queen's eyes widened in astonishment. Eli had done it. He had helped save her tower. But the battle was not over. The warship deployed ground troops, alien warriors heavily armed and highly trained. They stormed the streets, moving toward the city center. Eli grabbed a small pulse weapon, something he had scavenged from his ship, and ran to intercept. He used the environment to his advantage. Narrow streets, overturned carts, and low buildings provided cover. Eli ducked behind a wall, fired, and rolled. He was fast, clever, unpredictable. The alien soldiers had strength, weapons, and numbers, but they did not anticipate human ingenuity. One soldier lunged at him. Eli sidestepped, grabbed a loose metal rod, and swung it with precision. The soldier fell back, stunned. Eli smiled grimly. He could do this. He could survive. Meanwhile, the Queen's daughter watched from a safe balcony. Her eyes were wide, but she was learning. She saw that this human, small and fragile by comparison, was fearless. She saw that humans could think differently, act boldly, and protect those they cared about. The battle raged for hours. Eli worked tirelessly, guiding defenders, setting traps, and using small tools in unexpected ways. His actions were simple but effective. He redirected energy flows, lured enemies into traps, and used his quick thinking to exploit weaknesses. Slowly, the enemy forces began to falter. Finally, the massive warship began to retreat. Its energy systems overloaded from the shields and interference Eli had caused. Enemy troops fled or surrendered. The city was battered but standing. The queen descended from her tower, her daughter clutching her hand. She approached Eli, her glowing eyes full of awe. "You, human, protector," the translator said. Eli shook his head, smiling faintly. "I just did what I could." "No," she said firmly. "You did more. You showed courage, cleverness, strength." Eli felt a warmth in his chest. This was what it meant to be human, using brains and heart together, standing against impossible odds, protecting those who could not protect themselves. That night, as the city repaired its damaged streets and citizens celebrated survival, Eli sat near the queen and her daughter. They shared a quiet meal, simple and nourishing. The queen's daughter finally smiled at him, a small gesture of trust and friendship. "You, brave," the translator said softly. Eli nodded. "I'm human. We survive, we protect, that's what we do." The queen reached out and touched his shoulder lightly, a gesture of acknowledgement and respect. For the first time, Eli felt truly at home on this alien world. He had faced danger, used his mind and courage, and helped protect a civilization, unlike any he had ever known. But deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. The enemy might return, stronger and more prepared. The city had survived today, but tomorrow could bring new challenges. Eli looked at the two moons above, thinking of Earth, of his mother, and of the promise he had whispered to himself in the cockpit. "Mom, I'll be back." He smiled faintly. He would survive. He would protect. And he would face whatever came next, because he was human. The city slept under the watch of its new protector, a small human with a heart bigger than the universe itself. And somewhere in the shadows, new dangers waited, but Eli would be ready. The city had survived the first attack, but the victory was bittersweet. The queen's daughter, young and spirited, had been taken during the chaos by a small group of the enemy's elite forces. They had slipped through the city's defenses, moving faster than anyone expected. The queen's face, usually calm and composed, now held fear and urgency. Eli stood near her tower, looking at the horizon. His mind raced. Humans had a saying, "When someone you care about is in danger, you fight with everything you have." He would do that now. "We must save her," the queen said, her voice steady despite the fear in her glowing eyes. "She is our hope, our future." Eli nodded. "I'll help. I know how to think fast, move smart, and survive." The queen studied him. "You, human, brave, clever. You can lead small team. Use what you know. Protect her." Eli's chest tightened. He felt the weight of responsibility, but he also felt determination. Humans survived because they never gave up. Now he would show that courage on this alien world. That evening he gathered a small team, 2 elite alien guards who had fought alongside him, and 1 engineer skilled in alien devices. Eli explained his plan. "We go fast, stay hidden, and use the enemy's weaknesses against them. They expect brute force. We use brains and speed." The aliens looked uncertain. Humans were small, fragile, and unarmed by their standards. But Eli's past actions had earned their trust. They nodded. At night, the team moved toward the enemy's stronghold. The forest surrounding the base was thick, dark, and full of strange sounds. Eli led the way, using his senses to detect movement, listening for whispers in the wind, following signs that a trained human would notice. Suddenly, a faint glimmer caught his eye. A tripwire. Eli motioned for the others to stop. Carefully, he used a small rod to deactivate it. The team breathed quietly, following him further. The enemy had traps everywhere, but humans could think differently. They could adapt. Hours passed. The team climbed cliffs, crawled through narrow passages, and avoided patrols. Eli's heart raced, but he remained calm. Panic could kill them. He whispered instructions in short bursts, precise and clear. Every step brought them closer to the queen's daughter. Finally, they reached the inner courtyard of the enemy stronghold. Soldiers patrolled in pairs, their weapons glowing. Eli crouched behind a wall, studying patterns. "Wait for their movements," he whispered. "We go when they turn their backs." The team moved like shadows. Eli led them through a narrow path between walls, avoiding detection. The alien guards looked at him in amazement. Humans were small, but their thinking, speed, and timing were unmatched. Inside a tower, they found her. The Queen's daughter was locked in a cell, her small hands clutching the bars. She looked frightened but unbroken. "It's okay," Eli whispered. "We are here to take you home." The girl's eyes widened. Hope flickered. Eli worked quickly, using a small tool from his pack to bypass the lock. It clicked open. He pushed the door gently. "Come on, quietly," he said. As they moved toward the exit, alarms blared. The enemy had discovered them. Eli's heart raced. He thought fast. Split up, confuse them, meet at the forest edge. The team followed his lead. Eli and the girl ran ahead, dodging beams and leaping over obstacles. The alien guards handled the rear, using their strength to block pursuers. Eli used every trick he had learned, dropping objects to make noise in the wrong direction, creating shadows to hide in, and sprinting at precise moments to avoid detection. One of the elite enemy soldiers caught sight of them. He lunged with his weapon. Eli rolled to the side, grabbed a small piece of debris, and swung it to distract him. The soldier stumbled, giving them precious seconds. The girl held his hand tightly, trusting him completely. Eli smiled faintly. "Almost there," he whispered. The forest appeared at the edge of the stronghold. Trees towered like giants, their shadows hiding the path forward. They ran into the darkness, heartbeats loud in the silence. Behind them, enemy voices shouted. But the sound grew fainter as Eli led the group through the dense forest. They reached a small clearing. The girl looked at Eli, fear still in her eyes but trust shining brighter. "Thank you," she whispered. Eli shook his head. "No thanks yet. We are not safe until we are back in the city." The journey back was tense. Enemy patrols scoured the forest, but Eli used his knowledge of terrain to keep them hidden. He led the group through small streams, over ridges, and behind rocks. Every move was calculated. Every step mattered. Finally, dawn broke. The city came into view, towers gleaming in the morning light. The Queen waited on the balcony, her glowing eyes scanning the horizon. When she saw her daughter safe and unharmed, she ran toward them, her movements swift and graceful. "You, human," the translator said softly. "You saved her." Eli shook his head. "We saved her, together." The Queen knelt, embracing her daughter tightly. The girl hugged Eli briefly, a small gesture of gratitude. The Queen rose, her eyes meeting Eli's. "You, human, protector, brave, clever, strong." Eli felt a warmth in his chest. Humans were small, but their courage and heart could be enormous. Today, he had shown that humans could face impossible odds, protect those in need, and lead when others could not. The city celebrated their return. Citizens cheered, not just for the daughter's safety, but for the human who had proven himself worthy of trust. Eli stood quietly, watching, feeling a sense of pride unlike anything he had known. That evening, as he sat with the Queen and her daughter, Eli reflected on the events. He had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty. He had led a team through traps, enemy lines, and near capture. Yet humans had survived. Humans had triumphed. "You, human, remarkable," the Queen said softly. Eli smiled faintly. "We survive. We protect. That's what humans do." Her daughter, sitting close by, looked at him with admiration. Eli felt a bond forming, not just with them, but with this world. He was no longer just a visitor. He was part of something larger. But Eli knew the battle was not over. The enemy would return, stronger, smarter, and more determined. Yet he was ready. Humans could adapt, improvise, and fight when needed. He would stand again, protecting those who could not protect themselves. That night, Eli gazed at the two moons above. He thought of Earth, of his mother, and of the promise he had whispered so long ago. "Mom, I'll be back." Now, more than ever, he meant it. He would survive. He would protect. He would return home stronger than ever. But first, he would ensure that this city and its queen were safe. For the first time, he allowed himself a moment of peace. Humans could be small, but their courage, ingenuity, and heart made them giants in any world. And Eli was living proof. The sun rose slowly over the alien city, casting golden light across the towers. After the rescue, the city had begun to recover. Streets were repaired, citizens rebuilt their homes, and soldiers stood ready for any further attacks. Yet a sense of hope and admiration lingered in the air, sparked by the actions of a small human with a big heart, Eli. Eli walked through the streets, observing the bustling life. Children waved at him, citizens nodded respectfully, and soldiers saluted. He had never felt so recognized before. Humans were small compared to these alien beings, but today, size did not matter. Courage, cleverness, and determination had shown their true value. The queen approached him, her glowing eyes calm, but full of emotion. She held her daughter's hand tightly. "You, human, saved her. Saved us," she said. The translator hummed gently, echoing her words. Eli shook his head. "I only did what I could. I could not have done it without your guards and your people." The queen's daughter stepped forward. Her small hands reached out, touching his arm. "Thank you," she whispered. "You are brave." Eli smiled. "Humans try. We survive. We protect." The queen studied him, her expression thoughtful. "You, human, different, stronger than I imagined. You have heart, courage, mind. You honor us." Eli felt a warmth inside. He had come to this world alone, uncertain, afraid. Now, he was part of something bigger, a bond between humans and aliens, built on trust, respect, and bravery. But Eli knew that the world was not yet entirely safe. Reports arrived that the enemy fleet had retreated but had not been destroyed. They would return, seeking revenge. Eli considered this carefully. Humans had survived countless challenges on Earth, adapting and overcoming. He believed that with preparation, they could face anything. The queen held a council with her advisors. Eli observed, quietly listening. He noticed patterns in the enemy's previous attacks, strategies they might use, and weaknesses they had exposed. He offered suggestions. "Use smaller patrols to guard the outer forests," he said. "Set traps along predictable paths. Use misdirection. Make them think we are weak where we are strong." Her advisors looked skeptical, but the queen nodded. "He, human, sees clearly. We will follow his counsel." Eli spent the next days training the soldiers. He taught them new tactics, combining human creativity with alien technology. Simple strategies, camouflage, diversion, quick flanking maneuvers, made the soldiers more unpredictable. They practiced tirelessly, growing more confident under his guidance. Meanwhile, he spent time with the queen's daughter. She was curious about humans, asking countless questions about Earth, life, and why humans were so brave. Eli answered patiently, sharing stories of survival, ingenuity, and the importance of protecting others. Slowly, she began to see him not just as a rescuer, but as a friend and protector. One evening, while they walked through the gardens of the Queen's Tower, the daughter turned to him. "Will you stay here?" she asked softly. I like you here." Eli smiled faintly. "I don't know yet. I want to help, to protect. Humans have a duty to help when we can. If that means staying here for a while, then I will." The daughter smiled, her trust in him growing stronger. Eli felt a sense of purpose unlike anything he had known. Humans survived because they cared, because they acted. because they were willing to risk themselves for others. He was living proof. Days passed. The city prepared for any future attacks. Citizens worked together, soldiers trained tirelessly, and Eli continued to guide them, always thinking ahead, always using human ingenuity to stay one step ahead of danger. Finally, the Queen held a ceremony to honor Eli. The citizens gathered in the central plaza, watching as their savior stood before them. The Queen's daughter held his hand, smiling proudly. "You, human protector," the Queen said through the translator. "You have shown courage beyond measure. You have saved my daughter, my city, and my people. You honor humanity. We honor you." The crowd erupted in cheers. Eli felt overwhelmed. Humans were small, fragile, and often underestimated, but here they celebrated human courage, intelligence, and heart. For the first time, Eli truly understood the power of humanity. Eli bowed respectfully. "I only did what any human would do," he said softly. "We survive. We protect. We care for those who cannot protect themselves." The Queen stepped closer, placing a glowing hand on his shoulder. "You, human, are a hero. You have bridged two worlds. You give hope." Eli looked out at the city, alive with light, sound, and movement. He had arrived alone, lost, and uncertain. Now he had earned trust, friendship, and admiration. Humans were small, but their spirit, determination, and courage could stand alongside the mightiest alien civilizations. As night fell, Eli stood on the balcony of the Queen's tower, looking at the two moons above. He thought of Earth, of his mother, and of the promise he had whispered long ago. "Mom, I'll be back." He smiled faintly. He would return one day, stronger and wiser. But for now, his place was here, protecting this alien world and its people, teaching them, guiding them, and showing them that humans could be warriors, protectors, and heroes in any universe. The Queen's daughter joined him, holding his hand. "You human, brave," she said softly. Eli nodded. "We try. We survive. We protect. That's what humans do." The city below them shimmered in the moonlight, peaceful for the first time in many days. Citizens walked safely. Soldiers patrolled confidently, and the Queen watched over them, her daughter safe at her side. Eli felt a deep sense of pride. He had come alone, facing an alien world filled with danger. He had saved lives, earned trust, and shown that humans, despite their small size, could stand against any threat. He had proven that courage, intelligence, and heart were the true measures of strength. As he looked at the stars beyond the moons, he realized that this was just the beginning. Humans could face the unknown, survive the impossible, and rise above challenges no matter where they went. And he, Eli, was living proof. The night was calm, filled with a sense of hope and promise. The alien city, saved from destruction, stood as a testament to human ingenuity and courage. And Eli, the small, human warrior, had become a legend. He knew that danger could return, that challenges could arise again, but he was ready. Humans had always faced the impossible and survived. And wherever he went, he would carry the same courage, the same determination, and the same heart that had saved a city, a queen, and her daughter. For Eli, for humanity, and for the bond he had forged with this alien world, the future was bright. The city slept safely, the Queen smiled, and the daughter looked at him with trust. And Eli whispered softly to himself, a promise renewed. "Mom, I'm back, and I will always protect." The Ike. Moons glimmered above, casting silver light over the city. And in that moment, humanity shone brighter than any star.